Yeah, morning YouTube. Not going to be too awfully long in this video, or at least I hope I'm not going to be. I'm going to try to make it fairly quick. Just a couple topics that I kind of want to hit on. Now, one person brought to my attention that it must be that I'm a Republican because I've been going against everything that the Democratic Party has been doing. And I'm not a Republican. I'm a registered independent who tends to be quite conservative. With that said, if the Democratic Party would start coming along with some ideas that would be beneficial toward our nation as a whole, I would start lending them support on those particular ideas. However, the Democratic Party does seem as of late to be very much inclined to divide us as a nation. And I'm going to hit on two examples of that real quick before I start really getting ready to head to church. The first one is the whole idea that we are ripping families apart at the U.S.-Mexican border. Now, first off, I want to say that this policy was put into effect by Bill Clinton back when he was president in 1996. The Democratic Party realized that, it's very immoral and not good for children to be with parents while they're being persecuted. While they're being prosecuted for breaking the crime of trying to come into our country illegally. Now, in order to defeat the first argument that I get right off the bat when I say this, because people immediately want to justify them coming to the country illegally by saying that America is a nation of immigrants. We were founded on immigration, and that, there was no illegal or legal immigrants at the time of our country's founding. And that is correct. At that time, there were no real immigration laws, per se. However, that was before crime became what it is today, or even 20, 30 years ago. That was also before our national population became what it has rapidly become. So, with that said, our nation had to come up with restrictions, regulations, laws, in essence, in order to figure out who would best be able to integrate into our American society, our communities, our way of life, and also who would be most beneficial. Now, do I feel for the people that are trying to escape the hardships of Mexico, the drug cartels, the rampant crime, all that stuff? Of course I do. If it were possible to create a country to where there would be no crime, everybody would be safe, we would be able to do it. But we as humans, our human nature does not permit that. We are a very hostile, aggressive species. I don't want to say culture, because, culture can be changed. But the instincts and just natural being of a species, no matter what animal it is, and yes, we as humans are animals, we belong in the animal kingdom. We're just that. We're not the most pleasant of species. We're not. So as such, we have laws, regulations, restrictions, however you want to put it. We have rules at our border. And the Democratic Party seems to think that it's okay for them to break the rules and then put them on a fast track to citizenship. And no, that's not. They constantly want to talk about what's fair. Well, how is that fair to the people who are saving up their money to try to get all their paperwork and ducks in a row to come here legally? My honest opinion, if you've got $12,000 to $20,000 that you can pay a drug cartel to illegally try to smuggle you over the border, and that's not a guarantee you're going to make it here, and that deposit is non-refundable, then wouldn't it make sense to think that you have $12,000 to $20,000 that you can put toward making sure all your information, papers and whatnot are in order to try to come through legally? Not to mention, if you come through legally, one, you don't get detained. If you do, it's generally for just some quick questions. It's nothing that's going to be catastrophic, unless you're trying to hide something that gets popped up on your background check. And two, you don't have to worry about your children being separated from you. So the Republican Party, Time Magazine, whatnot, they want to run with the narrative that, children are being separated. The most famous of which is when Time Magazine featured a photoshopped picture of a little 2-year-old girl crying with President Trump, just glaring down at her like, oh my God, why do I have to deal with this? That was kind of the expression he had. And the narrative they ran was, President Trump is separating children from their families. No, he's not. The child, which was later discovered, and Time Magazine has yet to apologize for trying to force this narrative. Time Magazine, shame on you. He's enforcing laws that were put together back in '96. Now, has he signed, some paperwork? Has he signed some papers to try to make everybody happy? He has. However, he does not have the authority to put that into law. That has to go through the judicial system, that has to go through Congress, has to get approved through the House. And to be honest, I don't see that happening. So, second issue I want to hit. Maxine Waters has seemed to become one of the forefront runners in the Democratic Party. And what's getting her in the forefront is her comments about how if people find someone who supports President Trump or supports the Republican Party, whether they're at a restaurant, at their place of work, a Texaco, gas station, filling up their car, it is perfectly okay. In fact, it is supported and, approved that you get a bunch of your buddies together, you get a crowd, and you start yelling at these people. You start making them feel unwelcomed. You start harassing them. How is this helpful? That's my first question to her. How is this helpful? And I'm sure the answer that she would, respond with is, well, it makes them understand that what they're doing is wrong. Supporting somebody who believes in us being a nation of laws has knocked down the unemployment numbers. I don't, that's just two examples. There are plenty more, but, just two examples. I don't see how that's wrong. Well, he's a racist. So, combating racism by attacking the supporters, how is that a bad thing? Well, how is he a racist? Give me one clear-cut example of how he's a racist. And I'm not looking for just one or two sentences. Like, actually, show me good proof that he is a racist, and I'll look at it. And if it shows he is, then gosh darn it, oh my goodness, what a bad person. But nobody's been able to do that. If anything, when asked the question directly, a lot of people who are on the political left tend to want to deflect and avoid the question. Now, for anybody who's watching this video and has watched the other videos on my channel, you recall that about 2, maybe 3 years ago, I said that our country is rapidly approaching what will become our second civil war. And at this point here, I really think that various members of the Democratic Party are pushing us closer to that. with the tax on our Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, with the Antifa terrorist groups and people whatnot that are supporting the Republican Party and the Democratic, the political left, it's becoming an almost inevitable reality that we are going to have some form of an armed conflict here in the U.S. And if and when that happens, that's going to be quite horrible and devastating. So my big message to Maxine Waters is you need to take a step back and look at what it is that you're supporting, what it is that what you're saying you want people to do. Now, there was a group that followed Maxine Waters for a little bit and, screamed and yelled at her and protested her and whatnot and just harassed her. Now, first off, I don't condone their actions by any means. What they did was completely horrible and just not okay. With that said, one would hope that Miss Waters would realize, oh my God, this is what I've been telling people to do, and this is horrible. I don't feel safe. I feel my family's threatened, and this is not okay. But of course, she blamed the Republican Party for it. So ultimately, I'm not sure what can be done there, except just hopefully she gets removed from whatever foreign power she has, and when she becomes a regular civilian, people will see her as somebody without a lot of political pull and won't support her. Move my glasses here. My big fear is that we've become so divided and so damaged as a nation that we've reached that point to where an armed conflict is going to be the only way to repair it. And it's kind of a scary thought and idea to think that the only way to repair the damage is through conflict, through causing more damage. But that might very well be the point that we've reached. Not sure. I hope not. I mean, the last thing I want to think about is a day where I might have to fight fellow Americans. But there's my thoughts for the morning, and throw down some comments below. Let me know what you think, and if there are any other subjects that you'd like me to possibly look at, or any arguments that you want to present, post them down, and I will be more than happy to look into them, and I'll even make a video of it. Like I said, that's my thoughts for the morning. Hope everybody has a very blessed Sunday, and enjoy what remains of the weekend.